have Michael Murphy, Donegal legend, All-Ireland winning captain with us here today to speak a little bit about his career. And I just want to ask you a quick question. Where was the turning point in your career? I suppose we would have seen you in 2011, your whole change of system, and then leading into that successful season in 2012. Where's the turning point for you guys?
I suppose it did centre around one man and Jim McGuinness. Like, you know, he had a vision about how to do things. He had obviously a plan in place, but I suppose that vision, you know, sometimes when you're in a county like us, you're being told, you don't kind of step outside of things. He had a bigger, kind of greater plan. Probably 2010 with under 21s, there was something in it. 2011, in both years we got defeated. 2011 and both defeated by the Dubs. 11, we won Ulster for the first time in nearly 20 years. So those were turning points. And even the day, I think, in Croker against yourselves, not a classic by any means, but the plan that we had that day was to try and thwart and to kind of go so far and to probably cause a bit of a scene and a bit of a noise. Probably was something that we're kind of conscious of trying to do. We knew it worked, but listen, attacking ways we were nowhere near it on 11 in terms of what we needed to do, and that's something we went away in 12 and work. So kind of answer around Jim and kind of around those, being able to compete, starting to be able to compete with the likes of yourselves, I think was a big one for us, you know.
Yeah. 2011 for us, when you was set up so defensively that day, it was a complete chalk and cheese to the way everyone was trying to play. It was like everyone was kicking the ball, it was fast football, it was chaos. And what you did was control the whole chaos of it in 11. And I honestly think if you'd have got another goal, you'd have beaten us that day, and it would have been a different scene. I know you just won it in 12 playing that sort of system, but for us in 11, we never learned because we beat you, but we learned a lot in 14. When you beat us in 14, we would have learned a lot from that loss. Do you know the sort of way?
And that's what you're coming at. Like, that is, it was a very good point that you make. Like, not until you feel the sting of a defeat, it doesn't really.
Doesn't motivate
you don't really review things, everything. And sometimes when you win a game, even though you didn't perform as well, and that's the magic, I think, sometimes of the really brilliant managers. They kind of know, right, we won that game, but we were fortunate. We need to go to the level. But for a group of players, I think you are right. There's nothing like that sting of the defeat. And you have to remember, like, up until 11, like, Donegal did not feature in anything, in any conversation. You know, maybe early 2000s, 2002, 2003, there was a semi-final appearance, I think, maybe, against Armagh. But Donegal wasn't featuring anything. So for us to actually feature, like, we were fully bought into our best way we felt of featuring in that year was to play probably a defensive brand. I remember coming through Ulster too. There was a game against Antrim. It was just like, it was pure stuff, like really, really tight. We got absolutely grilled from. So listen, that whole winter was for us, it was about attack, and how are we going to try and improve our attack. And we went after counter-attacking from November right through till kind of April, May, and that was our big change, I think, in 12 then, you know.
The question I'd like to ask you, what was the feeling like when you got that ball, that first ball that came into you, and you were just like nets, you know? Like, you blew it like out the stadium erupted. Donegal believed they could win after that goal went in. And Mayo, as we've seen so many times in Croke Park, that just sapped their energy right from the start of the game. And I think that just gave you that impetus to win it.
It was a funny one. We had a bit of a height advantage between Kane and Cafferty. Cafferty was probably their number one marker, and we felt
we used to take Brogan or yourself at the time.
But with McFadden's rich vein of form, we thought he was going to go on him, or if he didn't go on him, we were going to have. So we worked for 3 to 4 weeks in advance of that of high ball to the square. You know, you work on something and then you're wondering, Jesus, is this actually going to happen in a game? But Jesus, for it to happen so early was crazy. McFadden kind of went wandering with Cafferty, left a kind of a 1v1 mismatch, and Lacey kind of had a perfect ball. So for that to happen early, give you a surge of confidence, because like confidence was rocky that year, you know.
Working on something like that on the training field, as you said, for 2 or 3 weeks leading in, galvanises you as a foreigner, and saying what we worked on is working. It's happening.
That's it. And for that kind of belief to happen on day one was brilliant, and probably too for for me to be included in that, even when I was playing badly, for them to say, you know what, you can still be used to here. We can still
You were still the main man, I think, on the team at the time.
have a go. But yeah, listen, it was a great start. And then McFadden got the goal there after, and yeah, and finals is a funny one, and that's one probably for yourself too. Like, we didn't play well in that final at all. We played really well up into it, and I think sometimes in finals it's like, even when you watch the football nowadays, the moment it's like, do not get beat.
So just talking about the season so far, it's been. I actually thought the league was very good, and I thought Derry would have came on a lot for that winning that league final. It's kind of been business as usual for everyone. There's no, other than Donegal, there's no one really being a standout for me from last season. Dublin are still at the top, I think, and Kerry probably close second. And I suppose everyone as a fan, and me as a fan, want to see that as the final. But where do you maybe see a bit of difference in that?
It's interesting. I think that Dublin or Kerry, you're right. I think they're at the top. I don't think they're at the top on their own as strong as they were in previous years. Like, you know, I do think they potentially can be got at a lot more than maybe previous Dublin and Kerry teams can get. Where the issue is I don't believe any of the chasing pack are getting there. You know, they're not getting there. So I believe they have come back to the pack, but the pack hasn't really risen or pushed up towards them. So that's where I see it. It's looking like, and it's mapping out towards that Dublin Kerry final that I think all neutrals, everybody will want to see. Again, the way the quarter-final draws and the fixtures have moved out, I think maybe Donegal, Armagh will look to try and to do that.
Where do you see the progression, I suppose, of that Donegal? Because you'd know more about them than I would.
Yeah, absolutely surprised in one way, but then when I think and look back and know how that Jim McGuinness operates and the culture that you mentioned, in terms of, like, he's such a good communicator of setting a vision. You know, they work hard, but I suppose what he's so brilliant for, and what I'm sure you'll be able to say from some of your best managers, is they're able to say what you're working hard for. Yeah. You know, you're working hard for the county, for the people. He's able to bring that piece together, and he has done that so well. They're further down the track than I thought they would be at this stage. I thought, you know, they would compete in Ulster. They would start working hard. They would get promoted from Division 2, but I, you know, didn't expect them to go as far as they would here now. But listen, they're here in it, and I can guarantee you there will not be one chat about it. About we're doing well. It's such a brilliant season so far. They will be going after this year with all their might.
There's been a lot of talk about formats, rule changes, all that sort of stuff. But do you think the format's working with the 3 preliminaries going straight through to and only one dropping out, or should there be a little bit more jeopardy in that last game where there's only going to go 2 up and 2 down?
I think the jeopardy is the word. I didn't even know what jeopardy meant until this new group stage came on, but I think everybody's using the word jeopardy now a lot of the time. I don't think there's enough riding on each of the games at the moment. When you get to the final game of the group stage, you can see it. You know, so the third game and even last week's is when it becomes really knockout, or you're vying for position that bit more. But I'm old school in the ways where I really like to see, like, it's all in, and like we would have played, and we were fortunate enough to play in knockout. You know, there was a back door. I think I started in 7. There was a back door, obviously, but it was, you had everything was riding in that 70 minutes, you know, and that does heighten your senses. It absolutely, it means that you're just all in. There's no next day on it. And
first place, it means you get that week off. And I think, talking to a few of the lads around the Dublin camp, that was a big thing for them, you know. And I even thinking back, like, you've games on games on games, and, you know, you pick up a niggle, or some lads aren't right in the squad, and an extra week just off, and to just be with each other for that week rather than talking about an opposition or anything else, I think is huge. So being first in the group is probably a big thing, but second and third to me are just kind of, you know.
Well, it's kind of played out that way. Second, third, there was only 2 of the home teams that came second, 1, so it wasn't a huge thing. But you're right, in order to win the All-Ireland, whatever about trying to progress maybe to a semi-final or get into a final, but in order to win an All-Ireland, if you're in that prelim, you have to play 4 games in 6 weeks. Whereas, you know, losing out in that one, it's 3 games in 6 weeks, and that is a big difference, especially when they've played so much football already. You know, they've played a sight of football, these teams already, and trying to squeeze that 1 week off, I think, will help teams going to win an All-Ireland, like, you know.
There's been a lot of talk about, you know, rule changes and structural changes within the GA, and you've been on the rules committee. And how has that process been? You've been working closely with the next manager of mine, Jim Gavin, but how has that process been?
It's been thorough. Like, it has been incredible. I suppose it's a different I suppose thing to actually being, I'm sure, on the pitch in the training ground. I'm sure there's things there that you could speak about in terms of but there's no agendas going into it. I mean, the overall thing about trying to make Gaelic football the best game to play and to watch in the world, like that is I suppose that it's very lofty, the remit of it, but that's what we're looking at.
I like free flowing sport, and I think our game is naturally that. And I think hurling, we haven't seen real changes in hurling over the last how many years. Like there is no real changes practically in hurling, and for me it's the most engaging spectator sport to watch on the planet at the moment.
Yeah, there's certainly more contests, isn't there? There's an excel, and I think within Gaelic football at the moment, that's something that's come through quite strongly from the surveys, that they want to see more contests, one-on-one battles, and the various things like that. So how do we just let the game evolve towards that? Will it evolve towards that, or do we need to? And I think that's the whole piece at the moment of what we're trying and figure out, because yeah, you are correct. Hurling is engaging. It's engaging for that reason, that there's so many contests. You're only 5 seconds away from another contest, or something.
Quarter-final weekend, and I suppose it's business as usual for all the top teams. Roscommon and Armagh this weekend.
For me, it's down to Armagh. What do they want to do? In the last couple of quarter-finals they've been in, especially last year's one against Monaghan, they were the better team on paper, but they didn't go for it.
So it was the second quarter-final this weekend, Dublin and Galway. Dublin, topped the group. They got to a league final this year, beaten with Derry on it.
I can't say anything but a Dublin won on it. I think that last couple of minutes in Markievicz Park a number of weeks back for Galway, not closing it out against Armagh and getting that extra week, I think is a big one. I don't see them switching it on this weekend against Dublin, and for that I just see Dublin won.
Donegal v Louth. I know Louth have been the story of the summer, really. I watched them here in the Leinster final and they were absolutely phenomenal.
Two teams probably play quite similar, very defensive, not afraid to get the 15 men behind the ball. From Donegal point of view, they'll be glad to get into Croke Park and to really push on and say the thing that's been good, and you alluded to before, they have a spread of scorers now. They're not just reliant on Gallen and McBurty.
Final one of the weekend, Derry Kerry, and everyone's, I suppose, talking about this one as potentially the biggest game of the weekend. Derry, for me, didn't learn a lot from the league final, and this is the kind of talking point we were talking about earlier on. They thought they were probably maybe better than they were, and they went out in the championship and consistently lost. Now they got themselves back by a big win last weekend against Mayo.
Derry got over the line against Mayo. They've answered a few questions that day. I don't think they've answered. For me, they just haven't answered enough. So listen, the Derry one is interesting. Kerry are still, to me, overly reliant on the two Cliffords and O'Shea. I don't know. They've added in Brosnan. Brian O'Buglick has added on a few scores from the back for them, but they're still up there with the Dublin. I do expect them to come through this one at the weekend. But Derry will definitely go down with they'll be going down kicking and screaming.
Michael, can you give me your 4 winners from this weekend?
4 winners. Start with Armagh, get over Roscommon. The Dubs will overcome Galway. Donegal will overcome Louth, and Kerry will overcome Derry. So that'll be the 4. What about yourself?
I think you're spot on in most of them predictions. I think Derry-Kerry will be a really close game, and I'd love to see Derry win one, because I think they can really compete with Dublin. I think they have the midfield to do that, but Donegal will probably have enough for Louth. I think their scoring rate is a little bit better. But yeah, I think the other two are pretty gung-ho also.
Quarter-final always throws up a surprise or two. It's always a moving time of year that throws up something, but we've agreed on that one, haven't we?